Hi everyone. Well, in this video I wanted to show some ideas of how you can customize a Lionel Caboose chassis. Now everything I show you in this video applies pretty much equally to Marx Caboose chassis. At the end of the video there's a bonus. I'll show you a little car I made without an existing chassis. So stick around for that. To do this, of course, you have to get a hold of cabooses that have a coupler at each end. Here's an example of a gondola that I scratch built on top of a caboose chassis. This gondola was a pretty fun project. It took a lot of measuring and cutting, but it was pretty fun to do. I built this gondola out of strips of basswood that I got from the hardware store. I'd still like to add some details to it, like maybe some rivets on those upright posts. To achieve this color, I used some dark blue acrylic paint mixed with a little bit of black, and then diluted it and gave it that kind of faded look. And everything was simply glued directly to the chassis. Next up is a flat car. It was actually the first project I did on one of these Caboose chassis. One of the reasons I like using the Caboose chassis for these cars is because they're only about 6.5 inches long. I wanted to create a set of cars that looked like they were part of a small mountain railroad. I painted some rust on the trucks, but I'd still like to add some more details to it. Maybe some rivets on the ends and paint a number on it somewhere. And those chains were bought from a craft store. And the deck planking, I think, was just made from popsicle sticks. They're a little wider than the basswood, and I think the popsicle sticks are made of maple. Anyway, another reason I like to use the Caboose chassis is because on eBay, a lot of times you can get them in lots of 2, 3, or 4 for a pretty cheap price. Or some people will sell 2 or 3 that have the bodies are broken and cracked. So you can get some of those pretty cheap because you're just going to discard the body anyway. And next up is a passenger car made from a caboose. I used a hacksaw and cut off the cupola from the top. I bought a package of Lionel brake wheels on eBay, so I've been using them on these cars. I think I should add one at this end. There's a brake wheel at the other end. Another thing on eBay is that people actually sell the Caboose chassis in lots, just the chassis with no bodies attached. It's not that gross, don't listen to them. Anyway, here's a closer look at the roof. You can see where the cupola used to be, and I cut that out and then filled in the gap with some styrene plastic and then painted the entire roof black. Now, as I said, the Marx Caboose is also a very good candidate for these projects. That's because the plastic Marx Caboose with the plastic scissor couplers, they usually came with a coupler at each end. As mentioned, I'm going to show you a car that I made from scratch that didn't have a chassis to begin with. It's this little bobber caboose that I built on top of a single Lionel truck assembly. And here's a closer look at the front end, and I'll pick it up. You can take a look at the bottom. You can see it was just glued onto that truck assembly. And that ladder was just made out of toothpicks. And all the walls of the caboose were made out of matchsticks, which I set vertically. And here's a look at the back end of the caboose and some more of the details that were added. And I'll flip it around. You can see the other side. I wanted to give it kind of an old weathered look. I didn't want it to look like it was fresh from the factory. If you didn't want a caboose, I bet you could take one of these single truck assemblies and you could probably build a little crane car on top of it. And here's a look at the roof. Not really anything fancy, just some old scrap wood that I had lying around. You know, there used to be a little lantern hanging on one of the outside walls. I got to figure out what happened to that. I'd still like to build a boxcar from scratch to go with this set, and maybe even a tanker car. So if you'd like me to make a video in the future on building a boxcar for this set, let me know. Or if you'd like to see me make a video on a tanker car from scratch, let me know in the comments. Hopefully I gave you some useful ideas. If you want to see pictures of each of these cars I featured today, just check out my Instagram channel. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Bye.